Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Barcode, an innovation-forward podcast brought to you by Tompkins Solutions. On this podcast, we'll be diving into the topics of advanced robotics, warehouse automation, and supply chain transformation. I'm your host, Tony Del Cid, and I'm a director here at Tompkins Solutions.
The machine uses only two sounds produced electrically.
On today's episode, I sat down with Mike Ray, Channel Sales Manager from Geek Plus. During our discussions, we covered the benefits of a goods-to-person solution, their flexibility, and also discussed the timelines to implement some of the various solutions that Geek Plus offers. Now let's check in to see what Mike had to share with us. Welcome to the podcast, Mike, and thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Tony, it's great to be here.
Why don't you give us a little background about yourself? Tell us how you ended up in the field of supply chain, and maybe give us a little brief overview of Geek Plus for those who may not be familiar with Geek Plus.
Great, will do. I won't go to the Wayback Machine, but my first foray into supply chain was with Manhattan Associates. I spent 15 years at the WMS supply chain software company, Manhattan Associates, in their consulting group, designing, implementing the WMS solution over, hundreds of clients throughout my career there in consulting. From there, and 4 years ago, I left to join Fetch Robotics, a startup out of San Jose, California. So I joined there to run their alliances and partnerships program. And we subsequently, about 9 months later, got bought by Zebra Technologies. A larger, I'm sure you know, the device company and printers. They bought us in 2021. I stayed there for a couple of years later, and just almost a year ago, my year anniversary is coming up here at Geek Plus.
Wow.
Corresponds with Modex ProMat, so coming up here real soon. So about a year now at Geek Plus as channel sales account manager, working with partners like yourself to give customers, help customers understand how they can leverage, the Geek Plus automated solutions for their fulfillment.
Awesome.
Distribution.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the anniversary.
Oh, not quite that. We're close. It's close. Coming up in a few weeks.
What a place to celebrate in Chicago at ProMat during St. Patrick's Day.
With 50, 60,000 of your closest colleagues there. Yeah, so it's going to be good.
Exactly. Now, in your role in sales, you're typically the first person that interacts with a client or a potential client. So what would you say are the top 2 to 3 issues that someone's approaching you, trying to solve in their operations? And are you seeing a trend in particular markets or market segments or industries?
There's a mouthful there, Tony, so we got a few things to talk about there. Great questions. Yeah, I mean, you and I have been out on a few sites together. We've been on 3 or 4 sites together. The number one thing that we always see come up is labor shortage, and that was really happening since before the pandemic. The pandemic exacerbated the situation, right? So labor shortage, really number one. A really close number 2, and I didn't see it as much before I got into more of the automation space and warehousing. We did see it some, but it's not as prevalent. I feel like on the front burner is space. The actual space, so utilization space, right? So
Gotcha.
So labor shortage by far number 1. People not wanting to do some of these repetitive jobs, some of these we'll call it more dangerous jobs, dirty, if you will. And then number 2 is really being able to take advantage of the space that you have, because space is limited right now, right? I mean, I think some of the statistics out there are 95% capacity and some of the large warehouse REITs and places like that. So being able to utilize the full cube of your building, and some of the solutions we have at Geek Plus take full advantage of that, the height of your building. So I think that really opened my eyes to something I wasn't as aware of on that space.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, especially, obviously on our side, we help people find new spaces, and the cost per square foot is really going up as well.
Yeah.
So even trying to gain additional space isn't cheap. So I guess given some of those issues, can you elaborate maybe how Geek Plus can solve that, and maybe what some of the other benefits are whether they're obvious or not really so obvious for someone to see?
Sure. Yeah, the benefits for, Geek Plus has a very wide array of automation solutions, right? We do fulfillment solutions, our traditional, our original shelf to person solution that brings the goods to the picker, so you eliminate that walking, that travel time. That right there alone, generally, statistics say 70% of all picking operations are walking or wasted operations, right? Their travel time. So if you can eliminate, half of that or three-quarters of that 70% even, you're ahead of the game. So, with the person standing where they're at and the goods coming to them, that really has a huge impact on it. It also has a huge impact on the labor pool that you can choose from as well, too, right? There are a lot of people who don't necessarily want to have to walk 5, 10 miles a day, but they will happily stand in one place on a nice padded mat, right? So ergonomically too, we talk about the benefits, right? So, when you're a picker and you're using a cart or you're using a walkie rider or you're using even a fork truck, in a fork truck, you got to get off the fork truck, you got to get down, you got to bend down, pick up a case or an item and put it on a pallet. There's a lot going on there. A lot of people don't want to do that, right? So when we present the items, whether it's on the shelf or in our toted solutions, tote to person solutions, we're presenting them at an ergonomical level. So there's not a whole lot of bending and straining, and you're not having to, get off and get on a vehicle, if you will. So there's a safety aspect that also goes along with it. People get that right away, I think. But being able to open the labor pool, I think, to people who you would not necessarily have applied for your jobs, knowing that they may have to walk 5 to 7 miles a day on hard concrete, right? Now it's like I can have a workstation, I can have a nice, maybe an overhead fan or something like that. I mean, I can have my water bottle right here or whatever, and I've got a nice little setup for me to work at all day and be extremely productive. So
Yeah, no, all good points. And again, I think eliminating the non-productive tasks, right? The IE in me
yeah, non-productive. And
appreciates.
one thing I meant to say as well, um, that I think people get right away is when they see the solution, they see what it eliminates as far as some of those, the walking and the riding is the safety factor too, right? So, we have a customer that had a facility where they were using about 400, we'll call them, they weren't electric golf carts, but just think of them as golf cart type vehicles with a full flatbed, and they had 300 of people driving those all around their facility. So 300 people up and down aisles in an 800,000 square foot facility. I, yeah, that sounds dangerous to me.
Yeah,
And the training, right? You got to train people on these equipment and everything, and get them up to speed. And it would take them a month or two to get them up to speed on just driving around and figuring out where the locations are and things like that. So all of that is that wasted time and onboarding, right, is cut down significantly.
yeah, no, that's all very good points. And I guess another feature, obviously, kind of like you mentioned before, going with you to sites and touring some of your facilities is, flexibility, and that's a big key word that you hear, whoever you talk to, right? Being flexible.
100%.
The marketplace is so volatile. People don't even know, what their business may look like in the next, 3 to 5 years. So, I remember when I first got in this industry, we were talking about 10-year plans. And I mean, I kind of laugh when people talk 5-year plans, right? So, um, can you talk about maybe, how the family of products that Geek Plus provides, kind of meets that flexibility and scalability factor that's so important to a lot of people looking at automation today?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think you said 5-year plans, and it's tough to even think personally almost 5 years out, right? I mean, you do, and you make those plans and you have those goals and things like that, but that just seems so far in the future nowadays with things changing so fast.
Right.
Yeah, a great advantage of all of the Geek Plus solutions is the scalability and the modularity in that, right? So you don't have to necessarily build for your 5-year plan today, right? I don't have to go in
Right.
and put that I don't have to put that shelf the person solution that I'm going to see with my, 30% growth over the next 5 years, let's say, to get to that 5 year. You can step into that, right? You can plan, a year in advance, year and a half in advance. And it's so modular that we can add additional robots. We can add additional shelves if that was what we're doing. We can add additional racking if that's the solution that has been designed, right? So it's not something that you don't have to build the church for Easter Sunday, as I like to say, right? You can go ahead and do it in bite-sized chunks and scale into those, scale into your plans rather than having to outlay all of the money and the time and then that risk as well. It gives you a chance to actually try the products and make sure that they're right, for your facility and your operations.
No, exactly. I mean, the last thing you know, anyone that's worked in this industry has probably heard of an example of someone that implemented a solution and then, 5 years later are ripping part of it out, right? That's the last thing any of us want to do, right? Is put something in for someone and then just hear that they're going to rip it out.
Or they implemented the 5 year plan and then in 2 years, I've seen this personally, the building was full. And it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, what happened? Wait, you had a
Yeah.
5 year plan and we did it, and in 2 years it's obsolete. Like literally we've got to figure something else out new because that was not the right solution. Things change so fast, right? So I think that's the thing you mentioned, right? Things are changing so fast, right? To do a 10-year plan, it sounds amazing, right? And I know I've heard of companies that have 200-year plans. I mean, just, overall, not for their warehousing, but that
Right.
just seems so crazy. But, to do that is taking on a risk, right? Because you don't know. Everything is changing so fast, and how we get products to people in 5 years is going to change significantly, I think, than what we're doing today. Yeah.
No, for sure, for sure, and all good points for those of us who are considering a Geek Plus solution to consider. On top of the flexibility, I think a lot of times we find ourselves working with someone who maybe should have been considering a solution probably a year or two sooner than when they approached you. So, a lot of times timeline and the ability to get the system up and running can be very important and may even trump some other factors, right, that you would think would be more important. So can you walk us through maybe what the typical steps are? And again, I know people hate using the word typical, but can you walk us
We
through
know
what the typical steps?
there's nothing typical in everyone's everyday life, right? And never in
No,
their job as well, right?
exactly.
It's always so dynamic. But sure. I mean, uh, a typical um, a typical what's the word I'm trying to propose, not proposal, but uh, lead
Implementation.
time and implementation. Sorry, yeah, implementation um, schedule. It depends on the solution that we have. Our standard shelf to person, we call it P800 solution, where it's bringing the shelves to a stationary picker. That solution is something that we have implemented all over the world. Geek Plus is a global company. We've done well over 1,000 deployments of our solutions. We have over 100 deployments in North America alone, over 50,000 total AMRs deployed worldwide. And so in our original and our shelf to person solution, we can typically get that up between, if it's really, really necessary and something is urgent, we can get it between the 3 and 6 month time frame to do something like that. Now, when we start talking about some of the tote person solutions where we're putting racking in the floor and things like that, it's typically longer. It's 6 to 8 months on a tote person type solution, and that's really has more to do with getting the flooring and the racking down than it does to get
Gotcha.
the robots over, right? So we can be live in our P800 shelter person solution. Um, you know, 3 to 6 months is a typical time frame on the front end. We would probably need to expedite a few things to get it done that fast and make sure we have the capacity. But one thing that we're able to do and how we're able to do that so quickly is we manufacture all of our own robots, right? So we're one of the very few vendors that actually that does the manufacturing of a facility in China that manufactures the production schedules to be able to manufacture over 200,000 AMRs a year. So we would take advantage of that. We're the ones doing the manufacturing, not outsourcing that to someone else to be able to meet those expedited time frames.
Well, it's nice to have that control, right? So you control your own fate, and you can look back upstream to production, right? To really
Yeah,
give an accurate timeline.
exactly. And if we can need to move some shift some things on the production schedule, it's our facility. It's not someone else we're trying to get in line with, right? We're not having to,
Right.
say, hey, pretty please, can you move this to the front of the line? So yeah.
Sounds like you've done that in your past
Yeah,
life.
well, that's my boss has done that a bunch, and it's time to keep us for sure.
Um, again, I think we hit on it earlier, but again, it's another big topic along with flexibility. It's just the availability of human capital, right? Workforce, and just the challenges that some of our clients have finding, people that either want to do the work or even around to do the work. And you look at some of these towns where warehousing is a big chunk of their, the job availability.
Hmm.
You have a lot of people fighting over a very small labor pool, right? So, given your solutions, what kind of advantages do you think that you guys provide that can help a client overcome some of the challenges with gaining or getting people in their warehouse?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, you see it all the time. Where we typically could go, right? Where warehouses are built are usually in clusters, right? They're built in certain areas for a reason. So there's a ton of competition, right? I mean, I've very seldom do you go to, a 500,000 square foot facility or a million square foot facility, and there's not another one across the street, right? Usually you've got that competition. So, from a pay standpoint, there's always going to be that. But with solutions that, like I mentioned earlier, like Geek Plus, right? You can take advantage of on the safety aspect of that, right? You're going to be in a safe environment. As let's say as a picker, right? You're not going to be interacting as much or at all some places with forklifts, right? You're going to be separated from that. So the safety aspect is a huge thing, and just a job, a workplace environment enjoyment as well. As I mentioned before, you have your own station that you're at, depending upon where you work, you can, customize your station, have your coffee, your water, your fan, right? So you're there, not having to have your head on the swivel looking to see where the next, walkie rider forklift is coming around the corner, right? So you
Yeah,
have that advantage. Um, and,
or
and
your
it's
golf cart.
or your little flatbed cart thing. Yeah, and I think it had three wheels too, and I was like, that just seems so crazy. Like that would be hard to drive. I think. Anyway, take a long time. So you don't have that aspect, right? Of this, you don't have the aspect of having to, worry about that if you're out there amongst everybody else. And that is something that in my time before in software, when I'd be in warehouses working with the clients, the pickers were definitely aware of where everybody was at all times. They had their head on the swivel. So, and then, if you have promoting a Geek Plus solution where the worker is at a station, again, they're not having to walk that 5 to 7 miles. So, yeah, maybe someone's going to pay you $1 more an hour or 50 cents more an hour, but is it worth that to you to walk that 5 to 7 miles versus going across the street where there's a Geek Plus type solution where you don't have to walk. And so maybe you get home at night and you're able to do more things with your family, those types of things, because you didn't have to walk. You're not as tired, right? You're in better shape when you get home to have a work life balance.
Yeah. No, and that's really good points, right? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's usually a cluster of facilities wherever we're working, right? And odds are there's probably some of the big box guys out there
Sure.
that may be throwing a nickel or a dime or quarter more an hour. But yeah, that's a really good point, right? If I'm not having to walk 10 miles and I just get to stay here and you're bringing my work to me, well, yeah, I think I like that a lot better.
Yeah. 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 I mean, and I don't know. It seems also we have a lot of uh, customers. Everyone has, or not everyone, a lot of people have done this in the past 10 years. The gamification of some of these solutions, right? And I heard from previous my previous life, certain and pickers employees wouldn't couldn't meet some of them because maybe their pick path was so much larger than other people's, right? Well, this is a lot more, you know, lot more fair, I would say, in that regard. Like everyone is being brought the goods to them. It's not like I, have to run to go get my work done or make sure I'm meeting, my throughput. Everything is coming to me. And that's what that's what I'm graded, but that's if I'm incentivized on, right? I in front of me, I don't have to make sure that, I hurt my foot last night and I'm not gonna be able to walk as fast as I.
Right, right. Um, Shifting gears, obviously all this automation, especially or I should say as an engineer, is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, operations aren't just going to automate for automation's sake, right? There has to be a financial justification or an ROI for these things to get approval for capital funding. So, can you talk, high level on where you guys see the justification for these systems? I think we've probably covered a few of those already, but if you could just summarize that, and then if there's a targeted ROI you guys feel that makes sense for your systems and kind of your pricing model structure right now.
Sure. Yeah, we did touch on some of those, right? The safety aspect. Some of these are a little harder to calculate. The calculus is a little harder to do. We always highlight them though. It's the safety aspect can't be highlighted enough. The average a, a, a statistic I heard 4 years ago, so it's probably a lot of date, was the average forklift incident cost the company $150,000, right? And to go along with that, I heard there was 800,000 plus forklift incidents in like 2020, I believe 2021. So you can just do the math on that. So safety is definitely what some people call a soft cost, right? That's with the throughput gains, the efficiency gains, those you can see the elimination of all that wasted travel time. We can put those down and really map those out. The safety is a little bit harder, but I think it's a huge benefit. The training and onboarding, I mentioned it a little bit, but training and onboarding goes your time. I mean, most of our customers, what we see is they go from a matter of if it's a 2 week to 3 week onboarding and training, they're down to about a week because you really just have to understand what's coming to you, your screen, your layout, your exceptions, and everything is there for you at your station. You're not trying to figure out where location A12345 is and try to remember in the facility where you're going, all those types of things. You don't have to be certified on a piece of equipment, right? So all that gets limited to the training costs are 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 fantastic. And what we see with that is the safety and the training, the retention is much better, right? So your retention rates are higher, which means you're training less people, which means you're spending less money on training people. So your turnover is less. Subsequently, you're not spending as much money on the recruiting and on the training. So all that adds up to a great amount, right? It's a little softer, but on the more hard costs, like I mentioned, the throughput gains, the efficiency gains, we can map those out and do the math on those. And we like to get, I mean, most of our solutions, when we're like working with you at Tompkins, we're looking for that 1 to 3 year ROI. We have had some outliers for sure. We've been in some situations in the past where we have gone in and there's justification. I mean, this is an outlier where you're in like the 6 to 12 months. It's like this is going to work. Like we see this, right? And so there is that 1 to 3 years is what we really look for. We have some, larger storage solutions. Again, I, I, I've done some ROI analysis with some of our customers, and we're talking about the ROI that actually it's not even as much labor saving as that storage savings, right? So the justification was I'm going to have to move out of my facility and find a new building and then redeploy everything in this facility. I mean, my whole operation, the cost of that. That's where you guys do, right? Or I could implement one of like our SkyCube solution, our pallet ASRS 4-way shuttle, where we can take advantage of storing, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 pallets, as high as the building will allow us, whatever the clear height is, right? And so if you can make that ROI, that becomes a really simple math exercise, right? Move out of the building or add in some storage and fulfillment type solution and stay in my existing building. those are types of things that we've seen in the past that really accelerate those process.
Yep. No, for sure. And I will say that the site that we toured in Savannah, that was the thing that stuck with me, right? He was saying that they were able to reduce their footprint by half by using your four-way shuttle system, right, as opposed to spreading it out in a wide aisle system. So,
Yeah.
the other thing that you mentioned that really hit a nerve, just because I was talking to a client recently, is retention and just getting people to stay, right? He was telling me it's gotten to the point where just to keep 5 people, he has to hire 10, and hopefully by the end of the week, he has those 5 people. So,
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about the time to recruit them and to train them, like you said, and you just know at the end of the week, half of them are going to be gone, right?
Sure. Sure. We had a customer that put in our pop pick solution, and they went from 140% turnover a year down to 32.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was in 1 year.
Wow.
That was so I mean, you can do some math on that. And this is not a small site. This was, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees. So on those numbers, to have to recruit those people, to have to recruit, like you say, a person and a half for every position for the whole year, is going to cost you a lot of money to do that, and a lot of time, a lot of wasted time from
Yeah.
everybody involved, right? So, and it's tough working in that environment where everybody is new and no one knows what to do, and they're all leaning on something, and so the people that have been there, maybe they get a little tired of having to explain everything over and over and over and over. So anyway, but yeah, the retention is a huge fact.
Awesome. Now, we've spoken a lot about what you guys have today. Are there any new product lines or new releases that you guys have coming up on the horizon, or any new announcements coming up?
Yeah, we've got some new things coming here in the second half of the year coming up. We're going to unveil, so a little anticipation maybe. We're going to unveil and some new solutions at ProMat in Chicago, right? So we've got some different versions of what we have, some smaller, lighter versions for for, let's say, smaller facilities or smaller spaces maybe. And we have some brand new solutions that we're testing, that have been tested and they're in production in Asia, and we'll be rolling those out in the second half. I think we'll have both 2 or 3 of those solutions at ProMat. And one great thing about Geek Plus is that we're innovating, every year. It's not that it's not that we have the largest breadth of solutions right now in the market. It's we're expanding that breadth, right? I mean, everything from everyone knows the goods to person, the tote to person, and now we have the SkyQ 4-way shuttle, right? We have our sorting robots to do returns, to do work cell delivery, anything you can imagine to sort parcels and packages and items. We've got some moving robots to move goods from point A to point B. And then we were coming out with some other stuff, and I say just stop by, watch this space, stop by and see it at ProMat coming up here in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I will say, for someone that's been in the industry for quite a while now, these last 5 years worth of shows, it really is exciting, right? Because it just seems like, what am I going to see next? What do I don't even know exists in today's world, right? Is going to be out there to blow my mind.
I think that's what it is. It's just a one-upsmanship at this point, right? It's just every year, it's like how bigger and more elaborate and more, we can do that now. That's available to be able to really do that in real life, right? Those kind of technologies is what ProMat and Modex has come. It seems like we can do it bigger, better, and faster next year. We'll see. Yeah, definitely stop by, as you a veteran of these shows and everything, and it's a lot. Obviously, a lot of people, a lot of walking. Too bad we can get the robots to help us with the walking part of ProMat, right? I mean, right. But it's definitely worth it. It is a really, really cool show.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it seemed like before you would wonder, what am I going to do for the 4 days, right? Back in the old days, and now it's like, how am I going to fit it all in 4 days?
Yeah, you got to map out your schedule and you got to adhere to it. You walk down you know what it is. But yeah, you got to map out your schedule and make sure you hit everything you want to. Otherwise, Thursday will come and go, and
Yeah.
you'll be like, I didn't go see
Yeah.
XYZ. So yeah,
That whole hall.
the entire second hall that's open. Yeah.
So obviously you alluded to having a booth at ProMat. For those listeners that may want to see a Geek Plus and maybe aren't going to ProMat, are there any other shows or events or anywhere else where they may be able to get a glimpse at both your current offerings and these new releases that are coming out?
Yeah, as far as the shows, we are doing Logimat in Europe, if you're listening in Europe. So we are attending that. We do number of shows throughout the year. It's not just ProMat. I think we were at Pack Expo last year as well. We do some smaller regional shows, and we do shows with partners like yourself as well. But one of the great resources that we have here at Geek Plus that I always evangelize is our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube and go to the Geek Plus channel, we have a whole channel. There are hundreds, I kid you, hundreds of videos of our solutions running in production environments. You know, some of them were created and filmed by us, Geek Plus, probably maybe a third. And then the rest of them were all done by our customers. I mean, just showing off kind of their facilities and their operations and what automation has done for them. There are countless and countless case studies. Even the one, like you mentioned, the one in Savannah that we have, that one's on there for one of our one of our customers. And it's that was fully produced and funded by them,
Nice.
for their customers, right? They want to show their customers how they've evolved and how they can help them, fulfill, faster and more accurate things like that. So the YouTube channel for Geek Plus is definitely something to check out. Sure.
And that's always a nice validation, right? When your customers are speaking highly of it, right? So that it doesn't come off as a gimmicky or salesy, right? If
it's
the
something
end user's happy with it, hopefully that speaks volumes.
Exactly. It's not something that we created in our great innovation center we have outside of Atlanta. We do those from time to time, but yeah, these are 95% of these are all in production facilities, and the customers are filming these and putting these on the web to again show off their facility to their customers to say, we can handle your needs. Look at how we're progressing. Look at what we're doing in this field. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, our time's almost up, Mike, but I got one last question for you.
Okay.
On the personal side. So a lot of times this job has us on the road quite a bit, right? And
Sure.
that could be just as draining as doing the site work. So a lot of us are looking for downtime, something to decompress, right, while we're traveling. So is there any musician, book, series, or movie or anything that has your interest right now that you might want to recommend?
Well, recommend. I don't know. Take my recommendation with a grain of salt, maybe. As far as I love all music, and I love the sounds of a band out of LA called Dawes, and I've loved them for a long time. They're a great band, and a band out of Philly, I think, called Mount Joy is something that my wife and I really enjoy. But a series or something. I'm a big golfer. I really liked watching the Full Swing on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was behind the ropes, inside the ropes, if you will, with Rory and Justin and those guys was kind of cool to see how it goes on, because I know, I'm on the first tee standing, and I can, there's no one around. I'm still, my heart's beating fast. I don't know how these guys do it. So I really enjoy to see people, excel at their profession like that. So the Full Swing. And then one that my wife got me into that I had to catch up with, because evidently she said I watched it with her, which I don't even remember. I watched the whole series and I don't remember it, but that's not true because I didn't see it. But that's neither here nor there. But it's The Diplomat. It's So we watched that on Netflix, and so that's the first season was good, but they came out the second season. That's why I started watching it to catch up to the second season. Second season, really. Anyway, it's a international type of international intrigue and diplomacy and ambassador type thing, and I enjoyed those series. Anyway.
Cool.
That's
Awesome.
what I would say for now. That and a lot of looking at robots.
Yeah. Can never put work down. Well, I'm just as excited about Full Swing. I'm addicted to golf as well, and then season 3 is coming out at the end of this month, so I've got a trip coming up. Good. I'm ready to download that.
That's the thing is you download it all now, and then you watch it in, I don't know, a week or whatever it is, and it's gone, and you're like, oh, that's sad. It's like that's like now you gotta wait. It just we just consume it so fast. I feel like when they're good like that,
No, for
it's
sure.
tough to kind of space it out. Anyway,
For sure. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for making the time for us today, Mike.
thank you, Tony. I
And
appreciate it. Thank you and Tompkins for having me.
no, anytime. And appreciate the education. Thank you so much.
Thank you.